Welcome to the Explainer. So, Europe is jumping into the high stakes global AI race, and they're doing it with a really bold new plan. Today, we are breaking down the European Commission's Grand Challenge, and it's a huge bet they're making to secure their digital future. This is the big question, right? It has massive strategic importance. And with this new grand challenge, Europe is basically placing a huge bet that it can answer that question with a resounding yes. Because let's be real, this isn't just about some cool new tech. It's about securing a spot at the head of the table in a global transformation that's being driven for the most part by giants in the US and China. So the EU knows it needs a clear strategy if it wants to get in the game. Okay, so EU officials have pinpointed a really critical problem, a gap in the most advanced high-end forms of AI, and they're tackling it head-on. The strategy isn't about trying to catch up everywhere at once, it's about becoming a leader where it matters most. So, what is this gap we're talking about? To really get the EU's solution, we first have to wrap our heads around the problem. And it all comes down to a concept you're going to be hearing a lot more about: frontier AI. Think of it like a super versatile genius that can learn new jobs, like instantly. That's what makes it so incredibly powerful and valuable. We're talking about the kind of AI that can go from analyzing medical scans one minute to optimizing a factory floor the next. And this, right here, perfectly lays out the core choice Europe is facing. Do they rely on others for this critical technology, or do they build the capacity to lead themselves? It's really a question of control, innovation, and, long-term economic security. Okay, so how exactly does Europe plan to achieve this AI sovereignty? Well, that brings us to the main event, the Frontier AI Grand Challenge. This is basically a call to action, a shout out to the best and brightest minds in Europe to build the next generation of AI, right there at home. The whole idea is to spark some intense competition and innovation around one very clear, very ambitious goal. So, how is this whole thing structured to really push the boundaries of what's possible? Let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. The bar they're setting here is just wow. It's incredibly high. They're asking developers to build models with at least 400 billion parameters. Now, to put that into perspective, that's a scale that's right up there with some of the most powerful and complex AI models in the world today. The ones coming from places like OpenAI or Google. The setup is simple, but really powerful. Whoever wins gets the resources they need to actually compete on a global scale. They're not just asking for a great idea on paper. They're providing the fuel to build it, including a massive amount of computing power. And to put that prize into perspective, the winner gets access to 2.5% of Europe's entire supercomputing capacity for a whole year. That is a colossal amount of processing power, the exact kind of raw horsepower you absolutely need to train, test, and fine-tune these massive, data-hungry AI models. And get this is all happening on a remarkably fast track. The call for proposals opens in February 2026, and it closes just 2 months later in April. A winner gets picked by the end of that year. The EU is clearly not waiting around. They are moving with some serious urgency to get this thing off the ground. So what's the ultimate vision here? It's got to be about more than just one powerful AI model, right? It is. It's about building an entire ecosystem. This quote from the announcement really captures the whole philosophy. The goal isn't just to build powerful tech, it's to build tech that's transparent, that's reliable, and that really reflects European values by putting people first. Now, this part is crucial. The goal is to make the technology that comes out of this a public resource, something that can boost innovation across all of society. This isn't about creating some proprietary system that's locked away in a lab. It's about building a tool to supercharge Europe's entire digital economy, from public services to private businesses. So, by combining this massive computing power with its top-tier talent, the EU is betting it can create its very own AI champion. But the big question remains: can a government-led challenge like this truly compete with the market-driven giants of Silicon Valley and China? The answer to that is going to define the next decade of technological power.